Hello, I'm Mary Elizabeth Beim, and welcome to the Introduction to Yoga for Almost Everybody. This is a talking video. There is a second video which is the entire yoga class. So this is just an introduction that I felt would be helpful. Perhaps you've never taken a class with me. Perhaps you have, but it was long ago. Or perhaps you have recently, but you want to know what the introduction is about. So I thought I would start with a discussion of the word yoga. Yoga is a word in Sanskrit, and it means yoke or join. So there are many, many interpretations of what it means to yoke or join. Some people say that they think it means joining the mind with the body, and I think that's valid. My particular interpretation is that it's our brain up here and our body, but that our mind is also everything. It's the whole thing. So instead of joining mind and body, I look at it as yoga, meaning yoke, is to join the non-physical part of us with the entire physical part of us. So that's just happens to be my interpretation of yoga. Now, I named this class, and I've been teaching this class for many years. I named this class on purpose, Yoga for Almost Everybody. There are some people this class is not for, and I hope you're not one of them. In any case, I think maybe the last 30 minutes of the class is for you anyway. But all genders, most ages, there are so many modifications that can be made, and it's my goal to show you a number of ways to do an exercise. So if you can do many of the exercises, maybe 80% of the exercises, you're doing great. And I would consider that you can do yoga. But I don't view yoga as a practice that you have to, here's the bar and you have to leap up and jump over it. I really would like to bring yoga to your particular body so that after a yoga class you say, oh, I feel so much better. And if you happen to like this style of class, then you might want to sign up for a 10-week series and take 10 weeks in a row and have a regular yoga practice. Or you might want to take the free video on YouTube over and over and over and over as a yoga class that you enjoy among others. So let's continue on with just a brief discussion of what equipment you might want to use in a yoga class, such as mine. It's pretty important that you have a yoga mat. I know my memory always goes back to kindergarten when we had mats and we would take a nap on our mat and then we would have graham crackers and juice, but this has a different function. In yoga we call our mats sticky mats. The mat is not actually sticky, but it has traction, and that's why they call it a sticky mat. So in contrast with a mat which is nice and deep and cushy and feels good, that's not going to help you in yoga. That's going to make yoga harder for you. So try to find a mat which is firm and gives you some traction. I have a very thick mat. It was the thickest mat I could find, and it was expensive because it was thick. Nonetheless, it's very firm, and I'm not going to slide anytime soon on this mat. It is made by a company called Earth Elements. I'm looking at the label on my mat, and I got it from a website called Hugger Mugger. So it's a charcoal gray mat. It's the biggest thickness that I could find. But you can find yoga mats in any store. You can find them in the dollar store or in Barnes & Noble or in Whole Foods or in many, many, many different places. It doesn't matter if it's cheap, it doesn't matter if it's expensive, really, to your performance of yoga. I think what can matter to people is that sometimes when you unwrap your yoga mat, although it looks fine, it has a smell to it. Sometimes it has a chemical smell. So you could leave your mat outdoors, unroll it, leave it outdoors. It's very sturdy. Let the animals have at it, let the elements have at it. It will hopefully wash the chemical smell away. Or you could wrestle your mat into your bathtub or jacuzzi, and in there you could add some woolite and a scrub brush and then let it sit for a day or two. So eventually the smell will get out of your mat, but you will be putting your nose down to your mat, and for many people, such as myself, it matters if your mat smells or not. They also make mat wipes. And so if you're too lazy to put your mat in the bathtub, you can buy a mat wipe and just wipe it down. But I think for an initial, right after you buy it, it can be a very good idea to wash your mat. So it's also important, particularly in my classes, that you sit up upon something. And I'm trying to show you here that I'm sitting up on a towel. And I wanted to show you I'm sitting cross-legged and I'm pitching my pubic bone forward. So I'm getting some height and a nice tall shape to my back. And it is the truth that many of us have a back shape that when we sit, we kind of go backward, roll backward, we slump a little bit. That's our normal posturing, particularly if we're stiff. And so a stiff person who is unable to sit cross-legged may want to sit instead with feet straight out, with feet down, with feet one to each side. I'm showing you poses that are symmetrical. I am not suggesting you sit in a yoga class like this as you watch the screen. I'm suggesting you sit somewhere at center. I'm also going to show you a use for yoga blocks that probably was not intended by the maker of yoga blocks, but it certainly is helpful. And you can put them side by side. I have 2 yoga blocks here. They're very sturdy, and you can sit right up on the yoga blocks. So particularly if you're less flexible, it gives you much more height. And the purpose in having you sit up upon something is that your hip joints will be higher than your knees. So even if you can sit cross-legged, you want to check, are my hip joints higher than my knees? And the higher you sit up, the more you're going to get that shape. So sitting up upon something, it's easiest probably to use a mat or a beach towel and then fold it the square way and then fold it over once again. At the start of a series of yoga classes, your towel will be nice and fluffy, and then at the end, when you've sat upon it for some time, it will shrink down. So sometimes it's good to have a second towel on hand. So that's the unauthorized use of yoga blocks, but there's a real importance to sitting up upon something. It will make every pose and every exercise that much better for you, unless I say we're not sitting up upon anything for some reason. So the next piece of equipment I wanted to show you is something we don't use as often, but particularly if you don't have so much flexibility, it's really helpful, and it's just a strap. You Google yoga strap, or sometimes there's a strap thrown in with your mat. But you can loop your strap around your own body in order to do various functions. So in order to pull yourself in a forward bend towards your own leg, you can loop the strap around your foot. So if you're less flexible and you could never, let's say, touch your toes, that just is not going to happen. Way, way, way better to have a strap so that you can pull yourself toward touching your toes. So they make very fancy yoga straps that are very expensive. I don't, in my classes, have a need for those. There's also what we used to call a TheraBand or a stretchy band from your other exercise classes, and those come in ginormous TheraBands, less enormous TheraBands, and they're all just fine. So is the strap from a raincoat, is just fine. Probably not a belt, probably not something that's going to cut into you, but it's something soft. So a soft belt, but not a leather belt, would be adequate. Okay, and now we're going to talk just briefly about the real use for yoga blocks. There are so many uses for yoga blocks. You can also use it to prop a door open when you're not doing yoga. But yoga blocks exist because some people cannot, when they're standing, touch the ground or touch their toes. They also exist because some people's joints find it really difficult to do some yoga exercises. So for example, if we are doing plank pose, some people will find that that pose hurts their wrists. So what can they do? They can take their towel and put their wrists on the towel with their fingers hanging off the towel, or they can actually roll up their mat and put their hands, the heel of their hands on the mat, and let their fingers hang off. All those things are going to help wrists, but here come the yoga blocks. And the yoga blocks can be used in tall, medium, low position. And I'm going to use these in medium. You can use your yoga blocks as a prop, and it's much, much easier on your wrists. So a lot of people and a lot of classes make these standard. I don't tend to use them myself because I'm extremely flexible, but I certainly tend to suggest to people who are not the ways in which they could use these. So they good to have two of them. They are probably sold one by one. Expensive, non-expensive, I can't say too much except just get a size that maybe there are different sizes of yoga blocks, slightly smaller, slightly larger. Get a size that you're comfortable with, I guess. One more piece of equipment. It's called a yoga jelly, and you can Google that. And it's a firm, round piece, about that big. And it's, again, something you can fit your wrists into or something that you can fit your knees into. Expensive, yes, you probably may not need it. You can use instead putting your wrists or your knees on a towel. Okay, many times in my classes, we will be using the wall. So wherever your space is for streaming, you may want a section of wall. It would be lovely if you had enough wall that you could extend both arms in either direction. I can't imagine we would need more wall than that. You may also be asked to get a straight back chair and put the chair against a wall, or even to get a straight back chair and sit in a chair. So if your wall is let's say a closet, make sure that no one's going to burst in from the other side while you're trying to use the wall. If your chair is a straight back chair but it has arms on it, that is less good, but we'll work around it. So straight back is good. Cushiness is never good in yoga. So a chair that you can sink into or sit way back in, no, not good. A chair you can sit at the edge of, a chair with firm support is good. Again, we're not going to always use a chair, so I'm just saying that because it may come up. I always have a water bottle handy. A water bottle can be permanent or not permanent. It should be closable. Many times we don't realize where our feet or legs are or arms are, and we wind up knocking over the water bottle. So if it goes over, it's good that it does not go all over the floor. Yoga is done barefoot. So socks are off, and I know a lot of people in yoga classes would prefer not to take their socks off for various reasons, including keeping your feet warm in winter. But they do make what is called yoga socks, and yoga socks have a material on the bottom that provides friction so that you will not slide. It is a wonderful experience, and it is part of yoga to have your bare feet in contact with the ground. So yes, you can wear yoga socks, but as part of a mind-body connection, it's wonderful to have the bottoms of your bare feet touch the ground. Again, it's my hope for you that you are doing yoga on a fairly firm surface. If you have shag carpeting, we'll work around it, but it's really not the best thing. A bouncy surface or a thick, cushy surface, not great. I am right now on a concrete floor with some nice carpet padding and a very low pile carpet, which is kind of ideal for yoga. And particularly when it comes to standing up and maybe balancing on one foot, a hard surface is not a bad thing. I would not recommend a linoleum surface. I would not recommend a basketball court surface, I think that's hard in the extreme. If you're only faced with those choices, then a really thick mat is a good idea. Okay, enough about surfaces. Just a few more things. The structure of my yoga classes starts, you should start by knowing that it's a 90-minute class. However, it's very much choose what you like. So some people say, I only want the physical part of yoga. That's the first 60 minutes. I'll turn the tape off. That's good enough for me. Thank you very much. I would recommend that you watch all 90 minutes and participate in all 90 minutes to the extent you can the first time through and see how it works out for you. The yoga classes start with a sort of a gentle stretching warm-up. You might be going over to one side and then going over to another side, and there's some nice gentle stretches. Then we move into yoga poses, which are called asanas. They're exercises, and we might, for example, be holding a pose. I'm not going to twist all the way around, but we might breathe in and breathe out as we hold a yoga pose, and it really focuses us on the breath and on what we're doing with our bodies. So those are individual yoga poses. Then we will string some poses together in something that looks like a yoga dance. It will go from one pose to the next, to the next, to the next. And for me, each series of 10-week classes that I do has one dance in it, one yoga flow. We call it a posture flow. In Sanskrit, we call it vinyasa, which is a way of saying posture flow. And I will put a PDF copy of that up so you can memorize that, so you can see it in words, so you can do that on your own without the video. After that, that's the end of our 60 minutes. But I'm going to suggest to you the last 30 minutes can be done by anyone. If you are recovering from surgery or feeling like you have the flu or simply unable to do the first 60 minutes of class, I know you can do the last 30 minutes. So the last 30 minutes consists of a breath exercise. We do a different breath exercise every class, breathing in different ways, breathing for different purposes, monitoring our breath, adjusting our breath, all kinds of things we can do. We can use the breath to calm down, use the breath to energize ourselves. We'll be doing different purposes in these exercises. Then we will be doing a meditation. Each meditation in each class will be different, but it will last for 5 minutes, which if you are not into meditating could seem like 5 hours or 5 days. The less you are looking forward to the meditation, they say, the more you need it. So you can also pause the tape and meditate for 10 minutes instead of 5 minutes if you choose, or 20, or what have you. But again, different meditations each time. Each class will be a different purpose, a different focus. Some you will love, some you will hate, but because each class is different each week, you're sure to find part of everything that works for you. So we have our breathing, we have our meditation, then we have our last yoga pose, which is kind of it's called a gesture of humility. It's a humbling posture. And then we lie down on our backs and we have a progressive relaxation for about 5 minutes with our eyes closed. And then when we're completely relaxed, I generally read a short quotation, maybe a sentence or 2 or 5, or a poem, short poem. And it's usually an uplifting thought or a thought-provoking thought. It might be from a yogic text. It might be from a European poet, all kinds of different ideas. It can also be something that a student wrote. I've had that a couple times, and it was beautiful. And then we will come back up and sit in some form or fashion. I will put my hands in prayer position, and I will bow and say the Sanskrit word that means the spirit in me honors the spirit in you. And if you choose, you would put your hands together, bow, and say that word, which is namaste. And then we will be done. So I encourage you to try all parts of that 90-minute video. And the last couple of things that I want to talk about are the 10-week series of classes. This is a free class. The following video is a free class on YouTube designed for you to get to know yoga or my class or your own body, all kinds of things you can know from that video. Then if you're interested, I have tried to price my 10-week series moderately so that you can try a 10-week series with no further obligation, just the 10 weeks. And then if you really like it, you can keep signing up every 10 weeks back to back. There will be a new term, and you can go as long as you like on that. What I mean by a 10-week series is that each of the first 8 weeks, there will be a brand new class at the same time on the same day. And that class will stay up for 7 days, 24/7. You can do it as many times as you like. It'll be a 90-minute class. And then the following week, another class, a new class will be up. That first class will be taken down. And each week there'll be a new class for your streaming enjoyment. On weeks 9 and 10, I will have multiple classes up. It will be repeats of the term that we're in, and it will also be other classes that I presume you might not have signed up for, the Yoga Pilates combo class and the Pilates class. And they will all have been streamed in that term, and they will all, maybe 6 or more classes, be available to you for the last 2 weeks. And then we will start all over again, and it will be a new term. So if you're interested in any or all of that, the information is below on where to go and how to sign up and when the terms start. Or you can just do the following video that is the 90-minute class over and over and over and over again. The last thing I wanted to say is, yes, if you like this video, you can hit like. There's a like button. If you take a look and you find the subscribe button, you can hit that button, and then there will be a message that says, would you like to be notified of any new videos that this person puts up? And you would say yes. And then when I do put up more free classes, assuming that I will be doing that, perhaps around Christmas time would be a great time to do that, you will be notified. So you can go ahead and do that. And I hope that you will really give the 90-minute class your best try. And also that you will let me know in the comments how this worked for you, if you have questions or if you have comments. And I find that people help each other. So other students that are going to read your comments might be really helped by what it is that you have to say. And I would love to read what you have to say. So good luck. Thanks for watching this video, and please move right along to the 90-minute Yoga for Almost Everyone class. Thanks.